In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to connect the Mach3 USB controller card to all of the systems on a CNC machine, or on a CNC router in this case. I'm going to demonstrate this on a machine that I'm currently working on. It's an 8-foot gantry. That's going to be for an 8x17 machine. And I'm going to demonstrate the controller connecting to two motors on the x-axis, but this can also be shown for only connecting one motor on the x-axis. I'm going to show it as not connected as a slave, so you can save one of the axes on the controller card. I'm going to connect it to a smaller motor on the z-axis, which is a NEMA 24. On the y-axis, it's a NEMA 34, so it's kind of a medium-sized motor for CNC machines or CNC routers. On the x-axis, it'll be NEMA 42 motors, so those are going to be rather large. And it really doesn't matter the size of the motor. The controller card really is just going to deliver the signals to the drivers. I'll also demonstrate how to connect the Mach3 USB controller card to limit switches, and this will be a series of a number of videos. They will focus on only one part of the connection at a time. For instance, I will connect one motor and one driver and test to make sure that motor and driver works on one axis first. And that's the way I would do a process anyway. I would only connect one motor and one driver at a time, and I would test that motor and driver to make sure that those drivers and motors work correctly. I'll also show you how to configure the software and the plugins that you'll need to make the Mach3 USB work. To get to the instructions for the Mach3 USB controller, go to buildyourcnc.com. The search bar is at the top of every page. Type Mach3 USB in the search bar and click Go. The first result should be the Mach3 USB interface. On this page, you'll have 5 steps that explain the process that I'm about to demonstrate to set up the software. If you scroll down, you'll see all of the technical information, wiring information, and Mach3 configuration information. Much of this information will be explained in the overall tutorial series. So let's start by doing the 5 steps. First, Mach3 needs to be installed. I already have Mach3 installed, but here's a procedure to install Mach3. Go to machsupport.com, go to Software at the top horizontal menu, and then click on Mach3. Download Mach3 by clicking on the Download Mach3 button at the lower portion of the page. Open the downloaded file and follow the installation instructions to install Mach3. Once you have done that, you need to download the USB motion driver called rnrmotion.dll. The USB motion driver is located right here. Click on the link to download this file. Navigate to the plugins folder of Mach3, which is typically located under the Windows C:root directory. You'll see Mach3, double-click Mach3, then double-click the folder called Plugins. I already have this plugin in my Plugins folder, but I'll overwrite it just for the sake of this demonstration. You should see some new icons on your desktop: Mach3 Mill, Mach3 Plasma, and Mach3 Turn, and Mach3 Loader. You won't need anything but the Mach3 Loader, because that will give you the ability to select whichever profile or configuration file that you need to use. And in this case, we're going to create a new one. Now go ahead and connect the controller to the computer using a USB cable. Plugging things in. You'll notice that the board is blinking, so that means it is functioning properly. I will start the Mach3 loader by double-clicking on that icon. At this point, you can optionally create a unique profile that will contain any settings that you change. However, we will be adding a configuration file in step 5 that contains the configuration for the Mach3 USB controller. I'm going to use the default profile values and press OK. Press OK once you've selected the profile that you wish to use. Click on the Agreement checkbox and the button that states I agree to all terms of this agreement if you agree to the legal notice of liability. And now you will see that a dialog box will appear with the name of the RNR Motion DLL plugin file called RNR Motion Controller ECO v 2.0. Select this option if it is not already selected and click OK. If you don't want to see this every time you start Mach3, then click on the Don't Ask Again checkbox. Now on to step number 5. You will download the Mach3 configuration file that contains all of the settings that will allow the controller to function properly. The file link is just above. Right-click and save link as. I'm not going to put it in the plugins. I'm actually just going to put this in the Mach3 folder. It says mach3mil.xml. I could actually take this and change the name because I want to call it something else. I'll just call it USB. So I'm going to save. And now when you pull up Mach3 Loader again, double click on the Mach3 Loader icon and you'll see what I just created or copied into that folder. So I'm going to use this one instead because this one is made for the RNR Motion DLL and the card. The settings should be appropriate for the Mach3 USB controller and we should be ready to go. So I'm going to start wiring the first driver and motor to the Mach3 USB controller and see if it works. But first, I will need to unplug the Mach3 USB controller from the computer. It is important to disconnect all power from all devices while doing any wiring.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do.
So I'm going to be using stranded cable, shielded cable with shield, 3 conductor to connect the USB Mach3 motor signals or driver signals to the driver. So this is what a shielded cable looks like. There's going to be a piece of string. You can cut this off. There's going to be a wire here. This is actually connected to the shielding. There's shielding around here. And to make things neat, I generally just take this off, or I cut it off, because this wire already connects to the shielding. The shielding can actually be a problem if you don't connect it to ground. So I'll be connecting the shielding to ground. If you don't connect the shielding to ground, then this actually serves as an antenna for more interference. And the shielding is actually made to reduce interference. And there are 3 other conductors. In this case, it's 22 gauge AWG. So I'll be using 22 gauge shielded wire, and one will go to step, one will go to direction, and one will go to either 5 volts or ground. I'm going to elect to connect this as ground common. So this will connect to ground. I'll have one connected to step and one connecting to direction. I typically do this the other way around. I usually connect it to 5 volts and step and direction, but I want to take a different scenario in this particular case. There are 2 ground terminals on the board here. This is the 5 volt level side and this is the 24 volt level side. So on the 5 volt level side, I'm going to connect the ground to this terminal strip. I'm going to make this whole terminal strip just a grounding terminal strip so I can use this for shielding and whatever I need, since it would be difficult to get all of these wires into 2 little tiny terminals. Okay, I'm going to wire this ground to this first terminal here. No. Okay, so now these 2 are ground, and if I need more ground, I'll just jump them back to this one. Now I'm going to wire from the XP and the XD to the driver, the motor driver, and I'm going to use only the XP, XD, and the ground. The XP is the pulse, or the pole, or the CP, or the step, and the XD is direction. I'm going to take quite a bit of the insulation off, so I have a lot of wire. I'm going to cut the shielding and this string. One of these is going to be ground, and I'm going to put this to the ground as well. So I'm just going to put those two together, and then I'll make the red for the step and the white for the direction. So I'll start with the red wire on the XP. Now I'll take the white wire and go to the XD. So I'll tug on the wires to see if they're nice and secure. And then I'll take these two wires and I'm going to put it to the terminal. So I only need a little bit here. Alright, now I'm going to measure the amount of wire that I need to go. So I'm going to now take this wire to the driver. Okay, one end of the shielding needs to be grounded, so I'm not going to ground this end. So I'm going to cut all of this off. And I will connect the black to ground, the white to direction, and the red to the pulse. And when you're working with ground, the ground method instead of the 5-volt method, the ground will go to the pole minus and the direction minus, and the red will go to the pole plus and the white will go to direction plus. Since the negative has to go to pole minus and the direction minus, I'm going to short those two together. Now I'm going to put the negative or the black lead into one of those. In this case, I'm doing it to the pulse negative. Now I'm going to take the white. Actually, I'm going to take the red, which is the pulse. I'm going to take that to pole plus. Okay, that's good. Now I'm going to take this white wire and take it to direction plus. Probably should have made the black wire a little bit longer. Alright, you should tug on them to make sure they're securely in place. Okay, that's good. Now I need to wire or connect the NEMA 42 motor to the driver. I'm going to go to the buildyourcnc.com website to check to see which ones I have to connect. And on this side is going to be connected opposite to the other side because I want them to rotate in the same direction even though they're opposing. Okay, the coil pairs are red and white and then yellow and green. So I'm going to take red and put it in A+, white, A-, yellow, B+, and green, B-. I want to make sure that the wires are very close. A tiny bit of slack. Now white. Okay, that's good. Now yellow to B+. And now green to the B-. Now the final thing we have to do for this connection is to power the driver. And on this driver I'm going to apply 48 volts using this 48 volt power supply here. With this particular power supply, it's a 110 or 220 volt and it has to be switched on the side first. And there's a spot for neutral, live, live, neutral, and the field ground or protective earth. And there's 3 for V minus, and there's 3 for V plus. So the V plus is going to go to VCC, and the V minus is going to go to the ground. So I'm going to connect the power, and then the V plus and the V minus. I'll do the V plus and V minus first, and then the power will be the last. For the 40 volt connection, DC connection, I'm going to use 18 gauge stranded wire. I'll start with V minus, and that will be the black wire. And then the V plus will be the red wire. Okay, so the black wire is going to go to ground, and the red wire is going to go to VCC. So I'm going to start with the V plus or VCC. Actually, on this driver it's V plus. And then the black one goes to ground. Okay, so that's securely connected. Now all we have to do is connect the power supply to the wall outlet. Okay. Before you put any power to this power supply, make sure that you set the 230 or 115 voltage selection on the side of the power supply. If you don't do this, it could damage the power supply. So the black wire goes to live. I'll do that one first. And the neutral is white, or the N. And the ground, field ground, is green. Okay, so now we have the power connected to the cable connected to the power supply. Now I need to set the dip switches. This is the blue set of dip switches. The actual switches are white. And it has switches 1 through switch 8. And this is going to control micro-stepping and current. The amount of current draw that the driver will allow as a maximum for the motor. And I'm going to set the current level to 5.6 amps, and I will set the micro-stepping to 3200, which is 16 steps for each natural step for the motor. So to do this, I'm gonna see what I have to switch. Okay, so it's off, off, off is for switch 1, 2, and 3. I'll make sure that's off, off, and off, and that is correct. It's already off, off, off. And then for switches 5, 6, 7, and 8, it is on, off, on. So it should be on. I'm going to change it to off, and then on. Okay, now I'm going to plug it in, and hopefully we don't have a short. I see a green light on the driver, so let's go ahead and try to move this motor by plugging in the USB cord to the controller. I'm going to unplug it just for safety. Okay, so let's plug in the one side of the USB cable. Okay, I'll plug in the card. You can see the red light is blinking. Okay, I've started the Mach3 loader. I'm going to select the previous Mach3 mil USB that I created, or from the XML file from the website. That's okay. Okay, and what I'm going to do is press the reset. When I press the left and right arrow keys, I should see the motor moving. So I'm going to press reset. And I see the motor spinning. Okay, I'm turning it left, and it looks like it's turning left. I'm pressing the right button, and it looks like it's turning the opposite direction. So I'm pressing the left button, and it's turning one direction, and I press the right button, and it turns the opposite direction. And the motor sounds good. It doesn't sound like it's grumbling or anything. So it appears to be wired correctly. So let's go ahead and connect the next motor. And this is, I'm going to show you how to connect the two motors, but they both spin in the same unified direction.